I'd say this pretty much sums up the vibe of today's video. Dark and stormy, but not nearly as refreshing as the drink. Welcome to Abu Dhabi. So you remember that Roots and Hub series that feels like it started 8 years ago? Yeah, this is the second to last flight of that trip, though these flights are not part of the series. In reality, I arrived the night prior into Dubai from Karachi and took a taxi to Abu Dhabi. I kinda have a thing with the UAE and rain. I was in the UAE 3 times last year, and 3 times it rained. Today's rain, though, is a little bit different. Today's rain was the most significant rainfall the country had had in over 75 years. They received 2 years' worth of rainfall in less than a day. So it was a very wet and bumpy ride, figuratively and in reality. Before I show you the world's worst airport design flaw, though, let me welcome any of you that may be new to the channel. My name is Kevin. I'm here to give you an unsponsored and honest look at some of the best, and well, some of the not so best, airlines and hotels in the world, which I've been bringing to you full-time for the past 4 years. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description to learn more about the channel. For now, let's get this roller coaster ride started. A couple years ago, when the Midfield Terminal, now Terminal 1, opened here in Abu Dhabi, I remember watching a video, I think Nonstop Dan, and he panned to the exterior of the departures area, and it just struck me that there was no roof overhang. But at the time I was like, it doesn't rain there, so they'll be fine. Knowing this, I asked my Uber driver to drop me off at the arrivals area, since I knew that there was a covered waiting area for taxis, or well, so I thought. Of course, you're not supposed to drop off there, and so the only option was literally in the middle of the street, and I got drenched faster than diving into a pool. Imagine a wet cat. Wetter than that, and arguably more annoyed. I went inside, got changed, and just accepted the fact that I was going to have wet feet all day. Here's the departures drop-off area. I walked over to the check-in area, at this point angry at the world at large, and was lucky to have a very friendly and admittedly bored ground crew waiting to discreetly laugh at every passenger entering the terminal. I say that in jest, they were actually very good at their jobs. For now, I'm gonna head to the Pearl Lounge, which was included with my first class ticket. Yes, first class. I'll explain that in a moment. I was recently here at the Pearl Lounge in a video from a couple months ago, so I'm just going to show you the part of it that I didn't realize existed. You have that indoor-outdoor terrace thing, and then a small inside space. Well, go inside and just keep walking. It looks like it's the end of the lounge, but it will open up into a space that most people don't realize is even there to use. The first time I was here, I couldn't figure out why they made such a small lounge in such a big brand new airport. Well, they didn't. Since I was flying first class, they also gave me access to the first class specific part of the lounge, which was a room of chairs, so I just stayed in the common area. When I was walking around the terminal, I was shocked to see how many leaks there were from the roof. Filming all of these expecting to tell you something like, can you believe how bad the construction quality is, etc, etc, etc. But in reality now, I think we can give them a pass for 2 years of rain in a few hours. Despite that the airport seemed to be empty, and most of the jet bridges were not being used, and it was raining, we were assigned a bus gate. I'm not sure if this was some residual shade towards Qatar, or maybe the normal gates all had leaks. No idea, but at least it did stop raining just before boarding started. So, first class. Qatar Airways has first class on their A380s, which they fly to Australia, Bangkok, and London. They also have a handful of ex-Cathay 777s, which have their Cathay setup, and regularly fly those birds to Hong Kong, the Maldives, and a few other spots. But that first class is not the kind that I'm talking about today. For some, not all, of their regional routes, they market their business class as first class. It would be nice if I could tell you that it's all of their flights within a certain distance, or a certain flight time, but it's not. It's very much a focus on what Qatar sees as the more premium routes in the region. Searching for non-stop first-class flights from Doha, I think it's safe to assume that this is the lot that falls into that category. Oddly enough, you'll have situations like Cairo, which is considered first class, but then Alexandria is business, and the business class fare is more expensive. Same goes for Muscat and Salalah. So what's the purpose of all of this? Well, it's essentially a way to offer the Al Safwa first class lounge to premium regional passengers, so they choose Qatar Airways for their connecting flights, rather than Emirates. That really is the only tangible difference. But it's an appreciated one, especially if you have an 8-hour layover in Doha, like I do today. First class and some status members had their own premium bus, which took us to the aircraft on a drive which felt nearly as long as the flight. Our flight today is on one of the 737 MAXs, which Qatar Airways never really wanted, which is clear based on what they're doing with them these days. They acquired these frames all originally destined for S7 Siberia Airlines during the dispute that they had with Airbus. They have 9 of these, and at the time of writing, only one of them is active, flying between Doha and the UAE. 2 of them are parked, and 6 are leased out to Indigo and fly exclusively between Doha and India. Stepping on board, I was warmly and cheerfully greeted and settled into my seat for today, 1A. These are the original interiors as intended for S7. Luckily, they both have purple. The seats are no frills, but are honestly pretty comfortable. The same model that can be found on countless airlines. Nowadays, A320s are used most of the time on this route, which may result in standard recliners or lie-flat seats depending on the day. Besides not having an in-flight monitor, I do think that these seats are more comfortable than the legacy Qatar A320 recliners. Either way though, it's just meant to be like a 40-minute flight, so I could be in a lawn chair and be fine. There were only 4 of us up front, and the crew, genuinely the most friendly crew that I've ever had on Qatar, a shame that it was such a short flight, well the crew, they came around to explain how today's flight would work. They mentioned how it was extremely bumpy on the way down, and the captain warned them that it was likely that he would keep the crew seated for the entire flight going back up. They asked if I wanted food if they were able to serve it, and well, you can take a guess at my response. If you're enjoying the video and would like to support the channel, there are many ways that you can do so. A quick like on the video and subscribe helps the videos with the algorithm. You could join my YouTube memberships to get early access to some videos and access all of my community posts. Or you can check out my Patreon, where I post the most often and can help out if you have any travel related questions. Whatever you do, thanks for doing it. There was a pillow and blanket at each seat, the same that you'll find on any Qatar flight in business or regional first. While there's no in-flight entertainment, the tray tables do have a built-in tablet holder. Amazingly, the crew were able to serve the meal. I think I may have been the only person on the flight to eat. The other first-class passengers passed, and I didn't see any activity in economy. For such a short flight, it's a pretty impressive spread. Since we were following one of the storm cells up towards Doha, the crew encouraged me to essentially inhale my food. The all-day platter, as they call it, was served 7 minutes after our wheels left the ground and consisted of za'atar lebna with Arabic bread, cheese sambusek, and chicken kiba, and a lemon meringue tart with berries. The chicken kiba could be swapped out for a spinach pastry for a vegetarian option. All of it was as delicious as it was impressive. I'd say that I ate in around 3 minutes and then pulled my seatbelt as tight as I physically could, as it was starting to get very bumpy. I filmed this before we took off, clean as anything with diptyque amenities and Boeing's wonderful microsync. Now, the excitement began, and ironically, now is when we were in the clouds so you can't really see anything. Generally, I enjoy turbulence. Today, I did not, and my discomfort went so far as actually starting to get worried at some points. I know for a fact in the hundreds of the flights that I've taken, I've never flown through such rough air that just would not quit. It was just one of those characteristic drops out of the sky every minute or so for around 20 minutes. We flew around a bit trying to get a good approach into Hamad International Airport. Then I had, after hundreds of flights, my first ever go around, with absolutely nothing to see. According to flight radar, we were at around 800 feet. Between the turbulence and the very quiet engines, I honestly don't think that anyone even noticed.
As you can see, we had to interrupt the approach here in Doha due to ATC restriction and also bad weather around the airport. Now we are landing on the opposite runway. We expect to be on the ground about 6 to 7 minutes. Thank you for your patience.
Due to the constantly changing winds, we lined up to land the opposite way and were finally able to get on the ground. Our total flight time today was 1 hour and 18 minutes. It's really hard to express how much I appreciate how hospitable the crew were, especially in such a difficult situation like a flight like this. While we were waiting for the doors to open, I was talking to them about they still have to fly back down to Sharjah and then back up here right after this flight. And despite flying directly through all of the same weather again, they were happy as clams to do so. And so, that was my you had to be there to understand how dramatic this flight really was flight to Doha. For the great service and overall pleasant journey, I'm going to keep Qatar right where they are. Now, time for me to head to the first class lounge. Well, for me at least. You'll see that next week. I really do hope that you enjoyed this one today. If you did, please be sure to click the like button and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss out on my twice weekly videos. I'll see you next time from the ANDAZ Abu Dhabi. As always, thanks for watching until the end.